everybody doing? I hope you have your libations, have whatever you need to get yourself through the show. Let me make sure I did something right. Because, ooh-wee. Looked like I was about to mess something up. Hey, fam, hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You know, child, I tell you what, you can't get to 100,000 talking about stuff people need to know and do. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That is really something. Ain't it something? If I came out here and said, look at the latest sneaker style or something, you be right in there. But if you come in here and try to do some politics in this genre, ooh, some ADOS politics, people be like, you gonna stay stuck right there at, what is it, 83? For a long, long time. So anyway, fam, we got to talk about something real quick, because I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I did all my Dion Sanders slander yesterday for the most part. So I ain't oh, some of y'all mad like that's your pappy. But it is what it is. You can be upset. You know, nobody really cares about what you say. You know, you can be upset. I put up something. I took it down on Twitter just because, you know, I'd already talked about Van Jones. But I put up something. This is just an aside. I said, you know, I pulled up a tweet from like 2011 where I told everybody that like Van Jones is a problem when he was being used for. At that time he came in and he was being used to kind of take energy away from Occupy Wall Street. I don't know if people remember that. I remember that. The time when Russell Simmons was at Occupy Wall Street with Kanye West, and Kanye West was like looking like, what these people, I ain't got nothing to do with this. I don't know why you brought me out here. It was during that time. And it's just interesting. People don't listen until like it's too late. But so, you know, I said most of what I had to say about Dion. I could still talk. But I want to talk about something else. I really want to talk about, you know, just quickly. We ain't gotta be here all day. I want to talk about reparations, right? Shocker. It's shocker because pretty soon people are gonna start coming to me and be like, Yvette, you know, it's a reparations movement going on. You should join. That's the way things are going right now. But it's almost as if there are a lot of different reparations plans that are coming. And I do believe, and I would like to work with some of these groups, because I do believe, not these cities and municipalities, because I do believe there's a way to use local reparations to leverage reparations on the federal level. I've been saying that for years, if you're going to do it. But there's a specific way it has to be done, and it's not being done, and I'm not going to tell you how it has to be done, because then I'll just see it somewhere else with somebody doing it who listens to the YouTube show, and I'm not doing that no more. People can like it, or you can love it. You can like it, like my best friend says, you can barbecue a meal. Don't make me no, never mind, child. But I want to get to this Providence reparations thing a while ago. I didn't have a chance to, because I think it was going to be part of a different show, and I just didn't have a chance to do it. You know how stuff just, you know, I just didn't have a chance to get to it. That was a busy day. And I had the show, and it was going to be part of that show, but it didn't get to be part of that show. And so I said, I really have to do, because I said, you know what, this deserves more than just a part of a show anyway. Because it has a lot of lessons in it. So for those of you who don't know, I'm talking about this report of the Providence Municipal Reparations Commission. This was out in August, and it's starting to make news. And I think this is a very, 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 very good time. You know, they use Frederick Douglass, which is very interesting, because Frederick Douglass had some very interesting things to say about Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, about how we were a specific group and we were not immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very interesting in terms of what they do and how they cobble this together, that they chose to use Frederick Douglass for that. Now, there is becoming this kind of, let me put this over here. There's becoming this kind of, we're getting clues, fam. Like, and everybody needs to know these clues, because chapters launch soon, and when that happens, and even if we're not a chapter, if you're in one of these spaces, in one of these areas, and one of these things jump off, you need to know the clues as to whether or not you're seeing real reparations kinds of legislation come your way, or whether you're seeing something else. There are markers, there are signs that you can go with that will tell you whether or not this person or these people or this city council or whoever it is are trying to push things in the right direction, right? Or whether what they're trying to do, or whether they don't know what they're trying to do, or whether what they're trying to do is get attention for themselves, get attention for their cities, and elevate them. So let's just go into this just a little bit. I want to bring a few things up because I think they're very important. So we see the summary. Now, first of all, first things first, ladies and gentlemen, first things first. You see that $10 million number right there. Before we even get to the rest of it, I want you to pay attention to the allocation. Now, I have always said, and it's just the truth, reparations is redress. So yes, it is money. It is a wealth transfer. But that's not in this bill. There is no real wealth transfer. It's not cash payments. They're using money for something. But I have always said you give money out. The problem is you give money that was stolen. Wealth was stolen. Wealth has to be repaid. Y'all know I've been saying that for years. The problem here is that we have a not enoughness problem. So $10 million is a wealthy person's home. We have people who are worth that much. You cannot allocate for a community with that little bit amount of money. It just can't happen. So the first thing is when you see that number and it says what it says, you know it's not going to happen. It's just what it is. Because there's no way you can do redress with that. Now you can do a series of studies. You can do some black agenda stuff. You can't do redress. But let's continue. Let's not stop right there. Because this is the bottom of one of the pages, and let's start at this bottom paragraph. Oh, and I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna move it to the top of the next page in just 1 second, or the other half of this page. A racial wealth and equity gap refers to the income disparity in the assets typical. Hold on a second. Typical households across race, ethnicity, and class. Many studies have confirmed that the racial wealth and equity gaps between the wealth of white families and people of color. First, ding, 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 ding. Wait a minute. Let me come out of this 1 second. So hold on. You start off talking about reparations, and it sounds like we're talking about ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. ADOS, we've been here for a minute. It sounds like that's what you're talking about. However, we go on a little bit further, and what we see is you're talking about people of color. But people of color, and this country were not enslaved, and a lot of people of color wasn't even people of color. A lot of people of color decided to become people of color after they found out that, oh my goodness, they're trying to give some stuff to the Negroes. Well, we have to tell them that the Negroes aren't the only people of color. We're people of color too. Wait a minute, you was just claiming white yesterday. You was just white, and you was complaining that the Negroes in your school, and you didn't want none of that stuff. But no. No. Right now, I want it. I decide I want it back. And what you gonna do about it? So people of color, there's no definition for that. That's a throwaway term. So what you're really saying is that you're giving it away to anybody whose self-definition is people of color. Because remember in the Supreme Court case, that was one of the most interesting things in that affirmative action case. They said, how do you define this? How do you define people of color? I mean, how do you define race? How do you define that? Is it my daddy, my mama, my great grandmama? How long we gonna play this game? There is no definition. Now we can specifically frame American descendants of slavery. That's why it works so well. Slavery, if that is your descendant, that traces you back to a specific harm that impacts us today. But let's go back to it. They said people of color. White families and people of color is a persistent socioeconomic challenge across America. As part of our commission's assessment of racial wealth and equity gaps within the city of Providence, findings reveal that Providence has the greatest overall income inequality of any other city in the state of Rhode Island and one of the highest nationwide. While the national wealth and equity gap between white and people of color is so significant, and it will require remedy through a wide-ranging federal reparations initiative. Yes, I agree. I'm happy y'all said that. Federal reparations initiative. I'm happy you said it. The city of Providence can immediately address the issues through targeted programs that begin. Hold on, I'm coming out of it again. I think Providence, some of the stuff you all are doing good. You just can't. Yes, you can. You can absolutely. And this is another thing. When they start going from redress to programs, redress and transfer of wealth, we're talking about redistribution of wealth in terms of reparations. That's a Black agenda program. When you start talking about the programs you can put in place, that's wonderful. We should put in place programs to help ADOS and to help. We should do that. That is wonderful. That is wonderful that you put programs in place. That's not reparations. So you have to be comfortable calling it something else other than reparations. So ding, 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 ding. When you see them go from redistribution to programs, understand that that's a reparations program. You know, that's a all lives matter program that's wearing a costume, because those are not the same thing. So I'm gonna go back to this, go right back in, like I never left. In practice, closing the racial wealth and equity gap in Providence would be long overdue investment in people and neighborhoods who were methodically denied over generations the chance to build and retain wealth simply because of their race and ethnicity. Now, what happens here is that they'll start off talking about us specifically, and then they'll move. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, an important part of the work the commission was to not only to define reparations as closing the racial wealth gap and equity gap between Providence residents and neighborhoods, but to recommend municipal investment avenues that can help residents of need get started on the path to income security and stability. The Commission's 11-point municipal reparations investment plan encourages the city to design programs and policies that encourage entrepreneurship, financial literacy, ding, 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 ding. I'm just going to keep saying it every time we hit a boom. Financial literacy, encouraging entrepreneurship, encouraging helping with homeownership. Those are, hey, knock yourself out. It's just not reparations. Homeownership, education, and employment training, which will directly enable eligible residents the opportunity to create a good quality of life for themselves and future generations of Providence residents. I can tell you what it is, I can tell you what it ain't. The eligibility definitions also recognize residents who may not have been harmed by early injustices to indigenous inhabitants and enslaved Africans, but were injured by the lingering legacy of disenfranchisement and enslavement due to their indigenous and African heritage once they arrived to the city and years later. Now, hold on one second. I'm about to come out of that too. I am about to come out of that too. Out of this image. In recognizing, let me finish it first. This part. In recognizing these irrefutable demographic facts, the Commission adopted 4 eligibility criteria for recommended reparations investments that would. Hold on one second. I couldn't even get to the end of it. I'm sorry. I couldn't even get to the end of it. There's no such thing as a. Well, I guess you could do a reparations investment, but you couldn't do it before you couldn't do it unless you've already done the wealth transfer, right? Like, there are other investments to be made in our communities. But don't start changing the language in such a way, right? Don't start changing the language in such a way that we're talking about reparations investments and we're not talking about reparations, right? Don't change the language. That's a con. Do not change the language. This is reparations, not reparations policies, not reparations. The first thing that has to happen is a transfer of wealth. That's just the way it is. I am so sorry that people got it confused. And when they said what they said above, they said people who may have been impacted but were not directly. First of all, how do we get to indigenous people? If we're having a reparations conversation, how do we get? Because let me tell you something. Let's just be honest about this thing. When we had this conversation, colleges are making tuition free for Native students. Will more students graduate? Nobody says, wait a minute, what about the Negroes? The Negroes had it rough too. But apparently you can't, that's another telltale sign. When you are reading some type of reparations program and they start talking about other people too, you know what it is, because there's some kind of secret plan or plot. I can't prove it, but I certainly feel it. It's like There's nothing we're going to ever do specifically for the Negro. That's what it, like, we're not going to do anything specifically for the Negro. What we're going to do, if we're going to do it, we're going to talk about the Negro, and we're going to say it's for ADOS. And then we're going to spread it around, because there's some kind of deal that we can't give nothing specifically to them. Now, you gave some, you were fine with giving. I would love a tuition waiver. I would love colleges making making tuition free for Native American students. I would love to get. Ain't nobody ever gave me one. And no Native American tribe has ever come to me and said, let's work together and get you some too. So I don't know what the expectation is, and I don't even know how they were included in that. Like, the justice claims are different for different people. The justice claims are different for different people. They just are. So nobody's saying that you don't have your own justice claim. It just can't be, you just can't put it in here. This is for reparations for ADOS. It don't go in here. Take that out. Like, it's like somebody putting buffalo wing powder in your collard greens. Take that out. No, we're not doing that. Wash them greens. Ain't nobody put no, what you put the buffalo powder in there for? Buffalo wing powder in there? Oh, you just nasty. Like, you didn't put a turkey neck, or you didn't put no just some smoked seasoning. If you vegan, you wouldn't put some. Just don't experiment with the food. Like, that's what this is. This doesn't go here. I don't try to shoehorn my way into what you're doing, but that's a clue. Just understand what the clues are. When you understand, just check it off the list. Oh, that's another one. Oh, it's all kind of red flags thrown all over. Just know what it is. So you know what it is. You can go to, if you wherever you live, when the chapters launch, we'll be organized to do this kind of thing. But before that, even if it happens now, you'll know, okay, this is a problem. What are we doing right here? This is a heck of a problem, right? So here we go. Let's go a little deeper into it. And who donated $500? Love you. Who is that? Benny? Lord, I almost had a stroke. Thank you. And if you put one extra zero on it by mistake, let me know. I'll take care of it for you. That happened one time. Somebody donated like $700. They made to donate $70, and I got it straight for them. Indigenous people who are a part of social and cultural groups that share collective ancestral ties before the European settlement of Providence and Rhode Island, including the natural resources where they live, inhabit, or from which they have been displaced. Wonderful, do that. You just can't do it in the reparations bill. Do whatever you want to do. You just can't do it in the reparations bill. Now look at the African thing. This is very, very, very interesting, is it not? An ethnic group consisting of people with ancestry originating from sub-Saharan Africa. Today, the city's African heritage residents include, but are not limited to, African American, African, biracial, Afro-Latino, Cape Verdean, and Afro-Caribbean. Okay? They took everything we said and bastardized it. They took our whole criteria. Listen, we laid out a whole criteria for why it only goes to ADOS. We have suffered the cost multi-generationally. We are owed the debt. Other people, there are studies that show that Afro-Caribbeans are better off than us. Black immigrants have different health outcomes. They have less hypertension, right? All immigrants are far less to be incarcerated than ADOS. There are differences that will tell you and speak to the fact that this cannot stand. But when you see this shoehorning of people of just African ancestry, as opposed to, it's not about ancestry. It's not about in terms of Africa. We all came from Africa. It's not about that. It's about who lives the burden multi-generationally in this country. And those are the people who came from slaves. That's it. It's not about melanin. It's not about, oh, we's all African. It's not about Pan-Africanism. But when you see this in a bill, you have to know, you have to understand that you are being hoodwinked, tossed aside, set aside, and all of that stuff. That's some other stuff they're doing. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But I want to go to this one. I want to go to this one real quick. Because it is very, 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 very interesting. I saw that on some kind of show. Very, very, very. Residents facing poverty. Providence, and this is very interesting because this is not, understand that you're supposed to be basing these criteria on a cost. The cost of lineage. It's not even race, it's lineage. It's supposed to be based on the cost, but now we're talking about poverty, general poverty. Okay, let's talk about it. Providence residents households earning less than 50% of the area median income that are considered to be very low income. That's who they are. Providence residents earning that's who's in poverty. Preference giving to residents households earning less than 30% of AMI who are considered to be extremely low income households. Wait a minute, we have this group. Yeah, I don't understand, Bernard. I don't understand what qualified census tracts are either. It doesn't make no sense to me. We're talking about this group. Now, what is this group? What is this qualification? We're talking about qualifications here. Residents who were born in the city of Providence or non-college students who have lived in Providence, Rhode Island for a minimum of 3 years. For people who moved to Providence to attend a university, three from the, what? What does this mean? What are y'all trying to tell me? Or they're trying to tell you that poor people are gonna get it too, even if they're white. Let's continue. They're gonna recognize harm. Harm to a person, community, and the people can come in many forms, such as psychological harm, physical harm, legal harm, social harm, and economic harm. That's not, you didn't tell no lie, that's the truth. While many see the harm done to indigenous and people of African heritage in Providence as being long past the history, the legacy exists and persists deeply, today deeply embedded in social, political, and business systems. The first step in recognizing the harm of racialized discrimination is through official apologies and acknowledgments, and it's a necessary prerequisite. Right? It's a necessary prerequisite to advance the public discussions about what it means to justly undo the harm. The Commission recommends the following: a formal municipal apology for African enslavement, a formal municipal indigenous land acknowledgement, a formal municipal apology for urban renewal policies and practices, a formal municipal acknowledgement. I don't know why I can't say municipal acknowledgement of the harms to African heritage, indigenous African heritage. That's so worrisome. That is not the standard. And indigenous communities caused by over-criminalization and enforcement of low-level drug offenses. Formal recognition for people from African heritage and indigenous communities with respect to public art or buildings, i.e. reimagining, building names, public streets, monuments, public spaces, official city holiday in honor of 1936 Indian Day Act. Oh my goodness, child. You know, this is a lot. I'm going to go into one more and I'm going to come out. I'm going to take it down for a second. Equity, building for African heritage and indigenous communities. The Commission recognizes that well-documented legacy of racialized discrimination in Providence has created persistent multi-generational, that goes my word, racial wealth and equity disparities for too many residents. To advance measurable equity and opportunity, the Commission recommends several programs that simultaneously build wealth. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me come on here for a second. Wait a minute. Wait. Hold on. You put in place, instead of giving me wealth, you putting in place programs to build wealth. So instead of giving me wealth, the wealth that was stolen needs to be given back. Instead of giving the wealth, or at least putting together something that we can give to the federal government to say, this is what my state has done. So this is why the government needs to do X, Y, and Z. You're giving me financial literacy and how to build wealth. No, wealth begets wealth. There are people right now, there was a professor or something, I saw a clip yesterday, and he was talking about how there was the white family who owned his ancestors was still there. The wealth don't go nowhere. That riches gets passed down. And don't talk to me about one person. He lost all his family money. I ain't talking about just him. That stuff stays. It's still in the economy. It's still giving certain people advantages and certain groups disadvantages. I don't need you to teach me how to build something. I don't need you. You might as well tell me you're going to teach me magic, give me marbles, and teach me how to do roots or voodoo or something. I don't need that. I need the money to do it. I need the wealth. So the thing that was stolen needs to be given back, but you're going to teach me how to build it. You sound like child. You sound like boys. I don't think that's what I'm looking for. I don't think build wealth and financial stability. Programs that build wealth. I kept telling y'all they gonna use this and say we already gave y'all reparations and just give us this little bit of nonsense. I said that. Home ownership and financial literacy program. A home repair fund. Fam, what does that sound like, the home repair fund? That's what Evanston did. So when people start talking about we're going to help you fix up your house, that's great. I love revitalization programs. I think they should be part of a black agenda. They're just not part of a reparations agenda. All right? Capacity investments in African heritage and indigenous community organizations. Earn and learn workforce training. That's great. Workforce training are great programs. It's not reparations. African heritage. I'm tired of putting these two things together. First of all, African heritage is not just us. It should be just ADOS. It should say ADOS whatever. And we don't need a business acceleration with no money. Financial literacy without finances. Expansion of youth internship program for African heritage and indigenous youth. Let me tell you, when you see somebody else if you see a reparations program and you see somebody in addition to ADOS in there, that's another red flag, because everybody else gets to do just them. So if you read a reparations program, they said we're gonna do this for this, and it's anybody except for in addition to ADOS. It should, if you see another name there other than ADOS, you are being hoodwinked. That's another red flag. Establish a legal defense fund. Lead by example. Expansion of African heritage and indigenous municipal employment at all levels reflect demographic of the city. Establish a legal defense fund for African heritage and indigenous people facing rental evictions. These are programs. These and sometimes you wonder how people get stuff so wrong. Okay. Equity for African heritage and indigenous communities. The Commission recognizes that a well-documented legacy of racialized discrimination in the city of Providence has created a resistant we went through that one. I think we went through that one, yeah. Creation and development of African heritage and indigenous media and technology and communications companies. Lord, we don't have no money. Let me just go on past that one. You got child, support programming in the city of Providence that promotes community that Lord of mercy. Provide grants to expand. That a grant is not wealth. It's not wealth redistribution. That's not what it is. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Review and reformation of laws and policies that harm African heritage and indigenous people and communities. Fam, listen. All of these things, all of these programs, and a lot of these programs have always been. If you study these kind of, when people talk about what they're going to do in terms of remaking the justice system, the criminal justice, like a lot of these things have always been floated around, right? And some of them are good. But when you see stuff that is criminal justice reform put in the place of reparations, it should send off a red flag immediately. Like, aha! You're trying to trick me. You are trying to trick me, and I'm not going to be tricked. I ain't trying to be tricked. So let's just go through a couple more. I can't take too many more of these. Discharge all municipal court debt for African heritage and indigenous people. It's just too much. Discontinue the Providence Police Department's use of no-knock. That's great. That's not reparations. Why are you calling it this? And see, the thing is, they call it this because it gets attention. It gets news. See, people are using what we are and who we are because it gets news. You can get on TV. Listen, if you want to do this, you can get on TV. You can get on TV and you can talk to CNN, right? If you can do it, Robin Ruth Simmons of Evanston, she was all over TV. You can get on TV this way. You can get media exposure this way. It doesn't change the fact that this is not reparations. And it doesn't change the fact that we know a lot of these things because of COVID. And if you're in Rhode Island or anywhere else, whether it's virtual or not, you need to show up and say, this is not reparations. Do not do it this way. Now, we're not saying you can't study it. We're not saying you can't have these policies, but don't call them reparations just so you can get on TV, just so you can be considered the first. A displacement fund. I don't even know what that is. To undo the far-reaching damage of urban renewal, the projects within Providence neighborhoods, the commission recommends the establishment of a fund to reconnect neighborhoods. That's great. It's a great part of a black agenda. We have one. It's not reparations. And the more you see it, people don't understand what reparations look like. Expanded representation of African heritage, indigenous people in governing bodies. I'm not going to read no more of these bit by bit. I'm just going to go to tell you the title. This is not it. See, this is just basic. If it's not tied to slavery was. Tell me what the cost of slavery and everything and its aftermath was in Rhode Island, and we can use that to press the federal government to do its work. Tell me what that is. I don't need you to try to do this yourself. You only got $10 million. That's somebody's house, child. Tell me, and it's good for programs. I use it, but tell me, help me understand the impact of slavery from when the slaves from when slavery happened, when they were free. We're talking about Reconstruction, Jim Crow, all the way up to massacre. Like, tell me the impact in your state. That's all you can do for me. That's it. You can't do nothing else for me, but tell me what that looks like. Explain to me that, and I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna pressure the federal government to do something about it. We're all going to do this together. But if everybody wants to run around and do stuff piecemeal, that's what the whole thing, every state should do it that way. But instead, everybody's trying to, it's almost like we're so poor. And I'm not talking about them, I'm sure it was white people on the commission, whatever. But it's just like everybody wants to run off. Like you saw, Robin Ruth Simmons is now doing something. Everybody's run off to, like, people have run off to say we're experts on reparations. And that's another red flag. People with failed reparations plans are running off saying, I'm going to do something about reparations. The plan in your city failed. It's a revitalization plan. You don't have the money. The cannabis wasn't enough. And you're running off saying, we're going to do it everywhere. If you do this everywhere, who gets to go and export failure across the country? I'm going to take my failure on tour. Only in ADOS politics is that allowed. For you to be a failure in your city and decide, and for you to put together a plan that's a failure for your city and for your people, and decide you're going to take your failure on tour. If you have a flop and you're a musician, you usually don't go on tour. You're like, man, I had a really bad album. I don't know if I'm going to sell no tickets. Not in ADOS life, child. You can have a failure. The plan ain't got no money. Don't do nothing. Everybody complaining, talking about it ain't right. Talking about y'all gave money to the people who was on the commission, and I didn't get the money, and it comes from white org, all kinds of stuff. And the cannabis residue wasn't enough. It wasn't enough money, and you're going on tour. Well, ain't that about a bag of beans? They got a whole truth process. Child, don't think they don't when they do. And when we're just talking about Evanston's, well, let's look at them for a second. Evanston's Reparations Symposium focused on Evanston as a national model. Wait a minute, they failed in their national model. That's what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to have their thing be the model. They don't care if their thing is right. There's money to be made in their heels. And let me tell you, the one thing I learned from the whole Dion Sanders thing, I said I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to get too into it. But the one thing I learned is that our community doesn't value sacrifice. We don't. So it's not something that's culturally rewarded anymore. It's always, you just got to go get the bag. You got to go, well, everybody got to eat. That boy been eating good for a long time off of being fast and a superb athlete. He been eating real good. What you mean he got to eat? He been eating good. He don't need to eat no more. Matter of fact, he ate enough. He got enough money. Sit down somewhere. But it doesn't matter. It's like our view of wealth, because we're so wealthless and we don't have access to it, it's almost like it's a cancer. So, a cancer cell, the biggest problem with a cancer cell isn't that it's just this toxic thing. It won't stop growing. And so it just destroys your organs and stuff because it won't go away. Well, that's who we are with wealth. We worship it now. And so it's just like, well, he gonna get his money. Well, and I asked this on the show the other night, and I asked this to everybody, how much money is enough? Would you value somebody more if they stayed and said, listen, I got enough money or whatever, I'm gonna stay here and I'm gonna work with this school, and I'm gonna try to work with other HBCUs to change the paradigm, because changing the paradigm is what he promised. But we seem to, going back to this Edmonton thing, we don't care. The person can leave and do whatever and go do whatever, and it's obvious that you're just trying to get the bag, and we do not care. As a matter of fact, we say, well, if I was in that position, I would just get the bag too. Well, I mean, you can't build a community and get the bag. You got to make a choice. Because if you're going to get the bag, I can always tell you who got a bigger bag, and it ain't your people. So you're going to always leave your people if your goal is to get the bag. If your goal is to get the bag, you're going to always leave these Negroes behind, because the bag is over there on the white side of town. It is not over here. So everybody needs to decide whether or not your goal is to get the bag or your goal is to build your community. You cannot do both. You cannot sit here and tell me that HBCUs matter and I hate we ever integrated. You cannot say all that and then say go get the bag, because the bag is the opposite. The bag is the opposite of segregation, that is integrating and getting a bunch of money. From where? Not your people. So everybody got to make a decision. And this is part of the reason nobody won't call this out. You over here, a symposium over what? Y'all didn't do nothing right. How do you have a symposium? Let me read this for you a little bit. Just a little bit. Other panelists included Erica Alexander, director of The Big Payback, a documentary film chronicling Evanston's reparations efforts. Areva Martin, CNN legal analyst and civil rights attorney representing the impacted by racial injustice in Palm Springs, California. Vanessa Hall, I want y'all to pay attention to some of these names. I'm not reading this for no reason. Vanessa Hall Harper of the Tulsa City Council. Cheryl Davis, executive director of San Francisco's Human Rights Commission. Julianne Malveaux, economist and president of Bennett College. Cam Howard, he was formerly in Cobra. I don't know what happened there, but it must have been some mess. National co-chair of the National Coalition National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation America. Cheryl Grills, member of the National African American. I got it on the next page. Let me see if I got it here. Hold on a second. Oh, member of the National African American Reparations Commission, Evanston Ward. What is this? Bobby Burns. Child, they got a whole. Wasn't it black girls? Some black girls reparations too. Child, they got a whole bunch of stuff that we figured something out and everybody just took it and ran. And they ran right into brick walls, but they trying to snatch up bags. And listen to this. Each panelist holds a role in the nationwide conversation of reparations and chose Evanston as the setting to honor the first United States city to enact the reparations program. See, we don't even judge things on success or failure, just like you did it. It's almost like people want to, you know what it makes me think? Let me come out of this for a second. It's almost like people want to tell their kid the truth. And I don't have kids, but I'll tell kids the truth. Like if your daddy 5'7" and your mama 5'4", and you tell me you're gonna be in the NBA, I'm gonna tell you the truth when I get you by yourself. Listen, you have a different calling. This is not your gift. You have a different gift. It's just like you got. I mean, I see people like, oh, Yvette, that's so mean. You killing the baby dream. No, he can play ball. He can knock himself out. But being a little Spud Webb or whatever is like hitting the lotto now. You got to tell the child the truth. You got to tell people the truth. That was a fail. You don't get to run around and do a symposium and y'all together and Sheila Jackson Lee and all of y'all together. No. We don't let people, we don't like assess things and say that's a failure. We say, well, give them a chance. I mean, why you so negative? This little 5'3" child ain't gonna never be nowhere. Am I the only one that see this little child? It's a little child. This is a small child. This is going to be a small man. And ain't nothing wrong with that. But his gift is not basketball. See? There you go being negative again. We just don't want to assess a thing. And let me tell you something. You can't grow if you want to assess. If you can't assess nothing, you can't grow. Because you got to assess that I really tried to put on 20 pounds of muscle and I just kept eating cupcakes and I wouldn't lift weights. And so I didn't get it. And now I got to reassess and get myself together. That's an assessment. Child, we just saying things. Leave them alone, Yvette. I don't know why you got to always just bother everybody. Everybody ain't the same. I'm not saying everybody's the same. I'm just saying this little child ain't going to grow high. He's not going to grow high. He's not going to grow tall probably. Now he might, but he probably won't. I put money that he won't. His mama that he might have a granddad or something, a sneaky gene in this thing, a sneaky gene. Right? He might. Families have different things. I never played basketball. I played sports. I ran cross country and stuff. I never played basketball. But I could have tried it out. I just didn't like bouncing and dribbling and doing stuff like that. But I'm 5'10". So if somebody were to say play basketball, Yvette, I would have known how to. I would have said, well, that makes sense to tell me that because I'm tall for a woman. That makes sense to say that. It don't make no sense to tell this child to play basketball. Now let's go figure out what your gift is. You like robots or what you like? What you do? You like to cook? What you do with the bologna when you fry? Like we can talk about that. Y'all destroying the children. You can be anything. No, you can't. No, your job. Let me tell y'all something, parents. I'm not a parent, but let me tell y'all something. Your job is to figure out what your child's gift is. Not to encourage your child's delusions. Your job is to figure out what that baby is good at. And the little bitty baby who got a little bitty mama and a little bitty daddy in terms of height ain't gonna be good at the basketball. I always had to, when it was time to do real math and sit down with some calculus or whatever, I had to sit down there and stare at the paper real hard. And just really, some stuff I could stir around. History, oh yeah, I love it. English, I love it. Oh, that makes sense to me. That makes total sense to me. All of that kind of stuff. When you come with the calculus and the numbers, child, what I did, I got to sit with it. That probably means, and I'm not saying I didn't do well, I did, but I got to sit longer than other people do with it. I got to sit, I can't skirt around that. When it's time to come home and do my math homework at high school, I got to really get the book out. I got to find I can't find no pen like this. I got to find a pencil with an eraser because I'm going to be erasing a lot when I figure this stuff out. That let me know I'm probably not going to be an engineer. I mean, it's just like, it's not, I wouldn't say nothing that you ain't never said to myself. That lets me know what it is. I know, Yvette, you probably not going to be an engineer. You taking too long with this stuff. Like my friend over here, he finished with his homework. I don't, you know what? I don't like to put people in categories. I really don't. I don't like to stereotype people. But my goodness, the black young men I went, or boys at that time who I went to high school with were so good at math. Like they wouldn't even be studying. They Yvette, you ain't finished. No, I ain't finished. Why you ain't talk to me about being finished all the time? Finish. Like that's just what it is. So I'm not telling anybody anything that I would not tell myself. Like I told myself, hey, engineering is probably not your strong suit. I could figure out history. I could figure out politics. I could figure out English. I could do all this stuff. Math just took me longer. And I just felt like I don't like it no way. I like it. I like math when it tells me something. I like what a chart communicates to me. I like what it communicates about the real world, the political world, the dynamics in the world. I don't like it just to solve an equation. You can do whatever with that. I'm not interested. So I'm not interested. I'm not the best at it. I told myself, you probably not going to be an engineer. We're not honest with nobody. We're not honest with people who run reparations committees and hearings. We're not honest with the kids. We're not honest. We got, like, if we want to get out of this hole, we got to stop being such a dishonest group. That's right, I said it. There was a good article about this, about the Providence reparations effort. I'm gonna give you all another red flag to go along with that. I'm going to give you another red flag to go along with that. Something very interesting. There's a couple of very interesting parts here, right? But let me point to this one. All told, the commission said it received more than 30 public comments. This is Rhode Island, and let's just take this one all home. On the use of reparations funding and saw 58 town hall meeting attendees. 58 town hall meeting attendees. 58 town hall meeting attendees. By comparison, the Providence Police Department received more public comment on its decision to use license plate cameras. I believe that the committee made significant efforts to reach out to the community to inform the public of what we're doing and to make themselves available to receive feedback, Alorza said. The committee can't control who attends or who offers comments. Let me tell you why that's a problem. And this is with reparations efforts around the country. This is not just Providence. When you tell me you had more people show up for the police with the light camera or whatever it was than who showed up for reparations, that lets me know you don't have a movement. That lets me know you don't have a... Oh, kudos, Trey Pound, $8 for the passing statistics, child. I don't know. I think I can do anything, but that would have been a struggle. I would have been up late nights with a pencil. Right? So kudos to you. Kudos to all the math heads out there. Y'all don't get enough love because that's a lot. But if you go back into my point, if you look at something and you say only 53 people or whoever came out for this, what that shows is that you don't have a groundswell of support. And I'm going to tell you something. That's another red flag, because I'm going to tell you something. Nothing great has ever happened in this country without a movement. There are a lot of people who tried to run out in front of stuff without a movement. And I can't predict nothing. I don't know what's going to happen. What I can tell you this. It would be an anomaly for something transformative to happen, because transformative politics happens inside of movements. I don't care what you're talking about. The labor movement, the civil rights movement. I don't care what movement you're talking about. Even the feminist movement. Whether or not we agree with it, that ain't the issue. Agreeing with it, that's another thing we got to stop. Stop not learning from something because you don't agree with it. I learned from all kind of conservative, right-wing stuff that I don't agree with. I still learn from them. They did what? Well, I wonder if we could do that. They said what? I wonder if that kind of rhetoric. They wrote how many letters? I don't care. If it works, it works. But what I'm saying to you is that even in terms of what you see in terms of the GOP and the school boards and stuff, these are parts of movements. They have organizations and they have organized efforts. A red flag for something is that nobody showed up to support it. Politicians respond to pressure and not applause. So they may not. They already said it might be rough. The mayor, the outgoing, the incoming. Yeah, I know it's going to be rough. You ain't got to tell me. You don't have a movement. You got to have power on the ground. And power on the ground ain't 20, 30, 45 people. You got to have real national power. And I think people don't understand. Like, oh my gosh, Yvette, this org is taking y'all so long. These people have done remarkable work inside the ADOS Foundation. But that's how long it takes to build something real. Anybody can put their name on some nonprofit paperwork. I can put my name on it. I can put my name on some nonprofit paperwork tonight and have a nonprofit tomorrow and say this is the foundation. It ain't going to be real. You haven't built the guts of the thing. It's really just an idea at that point. So that's another red flag. You have to understand that. And I think we have to understand. When you don't have nobody, let me tell you something. When you don't have no grassroots, what you really engaged in is work avoidance. I don't really want to do the stuff that people need. I don't want to really fill potholes or just call this something else that doesn't excite people. I want to be Evanston. I want to be known too. I want to be first too. I want to do red flag. You're doing this for yourself and your personal aggrandizement as opposed to doing something for the people. You would probably benefit the people more by doing a reparations study and using whatever money's left over to help them with food during this recession or whatever policy you want to put in place. Some of the policies that were described here. Right? All the other stuff don't make no sense. It is what it is. It is what it is. No support on the ground is dead on the ground. I'm just saying. So, I mean, fam, listen, we almost at the 1 hour mark, so I'll leave it there. But, listen, all these things are red flags, and we have to start looking for red flags. Red flags are everywhere. You just got to start looking for them. Be like, okay, I see what this is. I see where this is going. I see what they up to because they all up to the same thing. They all are up to the same thing. When I say they up to the same thing, they up to the same thing is they all use our name. Like and use we're gonna do reparations. That gets some kind of excitement. You get you on It's funny these people only had 53 people come to the meeting and they still got on CNN. You could be a failure and still get or your plan could be a failure and you still get national attention. That only happens to us. Right? That only happens coming through us. So you just have to be able to recognize that, realize that, and understand why you have to get active in terms of trying to steer some of this stuff in the opposite direction. So give me a few minutes. I set up the phones, fam. If you want to call in, if not, it's all good. Whatever y'all want to do. You want to talk, converse. That's fine. If not, I know you people be on libations. I understand. But give me a few minutes. I set up the phone. We can have a conversation. Yes, math, fam, math. All right, fam. I'm going to 708. 708, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yvette, how are you? This is John.
Hey, John, how you doing? How you been?
I've been well. Thank you, and thank you for tonight's show. Uh, just thank you for taking the time with the org, taking time and making sure that this is done right, because it will not be taken seriously any other way. And we are not at a time or place where we cannot be taken seriously.
Mm.
I happen to believe without question that, as you pointed out, as many red flags that are in this so-called reparations bill or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
the powers that be are listening for the buzzwords like indigenous
Mm.
and others, saying, yeah, these, as long as they keep mentioning this, we do not have to take them seriously, because I know without question that with all the work that's been going on, again, I was there in Kentucky, and we had the senator from Kentucky, the guy that penned some of this money that ended up going out during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, Congressman. The
I
Congressman.
can't remember his name.
I think it was Congressman Yarmouth you're talking about. Congressman Yarmouth you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, he basically like said, hey, like Baines Johnson said to King, make me do it. Give me a reason.
He did.
But as long as we keep mentioning all of these other people, no one has to take us seriously. I remember in a show a couple of weeks ago, it might have been last Wednesday, when we were talking, or it may have been a short hit by you, but you were talking about Warnock and how he couldn't even say black people without upsetting white people.
Yep. Well, not only that. Let me slow down for a second. Warnock became white. Like I don't know if people saw that. Like he became white. Like he was black by melanin, but he surrounded himself by puppies, and he was just running around and hey, and he's smiling. He was Bill Cosby. Like I'm not talking about Bill Cosby like got charged with. He was Heathcliff Huxtable, and that is the whitest version that a Negro can be. So if you turned yourself into a white man, you know, and I'm not people misunderstand. Well, you saying he talked right? No, I'm saying that like he was like a Hallmark card. So if you have to distance, if you have to go that far, if you have to kind of go that far to kind of ingratiate yourself, and you still barely win, and I understand, and no slight to him on barely winning, because I understand the Republicans were voting for the party and not for the person, so I totally understand that. Warnock doesn't get any hit for that. That's just the politics of red state Georgia. That's just what it is. But if you have to like really and try to sound like Obama, and you have to do that, what are my expectations? What are my expectations for you? Because you didn't sound like Dr. King's church. That's not what you sounded like. But go on, fam. I'm sorry.
I agree with you 100%. Hey, that's okay, Yvette. No, because you know what happens is no one is willing to stand up full-throated and just simply say reparations is for adults, American descendants of slavery only. Period. It's not negotiable. Again, we have a black agenda that will include everybody. And if our politicians aren't willing to do this without worrying about upsetting or pissing some people off, what good are they to us? Because I know when the orgs start to hit and everything starts to happen, I'm expecting fully for people involved with it to say it full-throatedly. American descendants of slavery.
Got to. If you don't do that, what you here for? If you don't say it full-throatedly, what you here for? What's the point? If you can't do that and say it full-throatedly.
They try to get the bag.
Oh, you right.
They try to get the bag. And this is why the other groups love those revolt summits and situations like these, because they know, wow, man, these people are just simply not willing to speak up for themselves. Geez, well, thank you for including us Indians in it, who, if you did a little research, with no own slaves, they sided with the Confederates. But by all means, keep putting us in everything. And besides that, we've already been taken care of. So, but keep including us in your justice claims.
And we won't say nothing. We won't say nothing. We won't say, right. Hold on, wait a minute. What are we doing? I didn't get included in your stuff. I don't get waivers to go to college. And the people who built the country, if anybody should get a waiver, the people who built the country and were multi-generationally oppressed within it should get a college waiver. Do you know how much better? We talk about student debt. Like, if we had waivers, we wouldn't have no debt. We wouldn't even be in this conversation. We would be like, child, ADOS ain't got no debt. We got waivers. And that's what it should be.
Indeed. And you are just, I love what you guys are doing. And I'm so happy that you mentioned the fact that, hey, I could put my name on, I could write up some papers right now, call it this, and hey, we in there, but it won't be real. And the problem is, there's too many people willing to not be real, and everything is at stake for us, man. As I have mentioned from talking to you in the past, we're not walking towards the cliff. We free falling.
And people don't know it. But people don't know it.
Yep.
People don't know it. People don't even know that we free falling.
Yep. And that's the shame. And it's because of the decadent veil. It's because they throw people out front. And they throw people who may have a little bit more than most people out front to talk about things concerning reparations. And I just don't think these people are very serious. What did you say? Any good movement dies in the hand of a pimp. Period. But yet this guy is on forums talking about reparations. How? And make it make sense to me. In what world? But
in what world?
Because people like, because you said, because we are not willing to be honest with ourselves, and we run to the forefront for Kyrie, we'll run to the forefront for Kanye, and we'll run out there and scream and shout and yell for these celebrities, but we won't even, man.
Well, we don't even. Let me just say this, fam. And I don't even talk about these people. But let me just say this. Something bothered me too. I saw. I think it might have been your financial literacy guy. Come out and say, well, nobody covered this thing, that this reparations thing that they did or whatever. What people who don't believe in reparations, right? Boys came out there, from what I understand, and did like a financial literacy thing, because it's everybody. If y'all are both hustlers, you don't care if it's not true to the thing. But it's just, there's so much like reporters never just show up to whatever you're doing. Like, there's so much ignorance in like not understanding how America works and how American media works. You have to build relationship with reporters and let them know that you're going to be doing something and tell them why it's important. And they still might not do it, but you have to do the work of building those relationships, and people have to help you build those relationships. Yep. So like, I used to have to do it alone, but now the foundation will help me get on the phone with somebody or them get on the phone with somebody. And you have to do that work. The job of it's a total misunderstanding of media to think that because you're doing something, somebody should just show up. That's just not how life works. That's just not how media in America works. You have some convincing to do. The only way we were able to get in the New York Times for the ADOS conference, because we had conversations with her, the writer, for months before that, right? The reason we're in local news is because Dr. Cosby has relationships there that he has already cultivated, right? So we're both cultivating and having these conversations. We're reaching out to reporters all the time, right? And so that's how you get people to your event. You all don't even know enough to know that reporters just don't show up because you decide that you're doing something. Like, there is just this inability to do things and understand things because you don't have that capacity, you don't have that expertise. And people don't know that, like, if you want a movement to go somewhere, you have to have people in place that have those capacities and that have those expertise. But if people don't really care, they're just going to tell you, well, yeah, nobody showed up because they don't like us and they don't want us to have nothing. No, nobody showed up because you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea how to craft it. You don't have any idea how to build something that works, but you don't really want it to work. Like, all these little things that I see, it's not about one person. All these little things that I see, these little reparations movements, like when you talk about Evanston, when you talk about the people right here in Rhode Island, like, a lot of stuff isn't built to work. It's built to get attention. And so I understand, but there's still some confusion, even in people who love to be in front of the camera. There's some confusion in terms of like how that actually works. And then you look at us and say, Yvette, why don't you respect? Why do we talk about expertise? Because expertise matters. I'm sorry, I hate that people feel like it absolutely does matter. You have to have, not only you have the people around you have to have expertise. It matters. So I'll let you finish, fam. I'm sorry.
Yep. Hey, the issue is rugged individualism, man. nothing concerning collective uplift. Everyone it's never going to work because the people on the panels and these things, the people that they are trying to appeal to can see through them, whether they believe it or not. And they'll let you do all of this stuff, knowing full hand when it's time for the vote, as what happened in Evanston, we can't come up with the money. This ain't even a conversation. What are you guys talking about? You couldn't get enough money with the dispensary? Oh well, on to the next thing. And it's going to continue to be like that because people are not going to take it seriously because they don't have to. Because you don't take yourself seriously enough to say, you know what? This reparation talk starts and ends with American descendants of slavery. You guys are too scared to take African off of your name. Well, I mean, you won't even call yourself Americans. And we built the country. And where else are you going to go? You're so far removed from the continent, so many generations and years. You know nothing with the fact that except that you might visit, but you know nothing about the continent. Most people didn't even, like we always say, they thought it was like the United States, 50 different states, and it's 54 countries.
And 54 disconnected countries. Disconnected countries. It's not like you go to Europe and there's fast rail going from here to there. No, disconnected countries.
Yep. Yvette, thank you so much for everything. May I ask you a question?
Sure.
And I'll get off the phone because I know there are other callers. Yvette, you did a show with a 10-year-old sitting in a big chair playing a game. I've been trying to find that episode, and I cannot think of the name. It was a 10-year-old kid from Michigan, and he had been kicked out of several schools at 10. And it was just a powerful show.
I think I remember that. I think I remember that.
The kid sitting in a chair. I'm going to email you.
I think I remember that. I don't remember what show it was, though. That's a while ago. I think I remember that, though.
I'm a day oneer, Yvette. I've been around. But this kid, the kid was sitting.
Yeah, they didn't have nothing else to do with him. He was like, "What we gonna do?" He just here now. I guess he's just in the house. I mean, yeah.
From Michigan. I know he was from Michigan. That much I do remember. But I'm gonna email you because I would really like to relook at that one again because it was powerful. It was a powerful show because the kid had drank the water and he had the lead poisoning. He had the lead, wasn't it? Right. Yes. I love you, Yvette.
Love you back.
Thank you for everything. And hey, let's keep going. That's all we could do.
Appreciate it, fam. You have a good night. Going to 40444. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Renee, and I'm calling from Atlanta. And I was going to call in last week, but now that the election is over, I'm going to say what I wanted to say then about Raphael Warnock.
Okay.
He's not even a white candidate. He is, I don't know, like one of the commercials that I saw during the campaign was when he said something like, voting is like praying. Sir, what? Voting is not damn praying. Voting is a part of using your political rights, but it is not praying. And I think he has lulled a lot of black people back to sleep. And it's sad because a lot of black people who otherwise had not been involved in politics and who had not been a part of the process at all, or who had no knowledge, he is kind of like almost like a candidate that's not even real, almost like a fairy, something that's like a made-up sort of character. Mm-hmm. But when they announced that he won, I saw all of these black people basically breathing a sigh of relief. In my opinion, he's going to be very much like John Lewis. We're not going to get much out of him because guess what? His church is Ebenezer. If I meet you downtown any given day, you will see so many reasons why we need to be asking for reparations. And my question is, how can a man who is a pastor, not just of any church, but of Ebenezer, not ask about affordable housing, not consistently push for it? How can he not consistently talk about the lack of access to higher-end jobs that are coming to the Atlanta area? How can he consistently not talk about how black men and black women aren't trained for these? Like, how can he just almost just cover his eyes and act like this shit is not real? And for people to be okay with that, like, it's frustrating. I almost wish he had lost, quite frankly, because I think he's just going to lull black people back to sleep. Most black people think, oh, you know, life is grand. No, it's not. He is, in my opinion, just as damaging as if Herschel Walker had won. He has done nothing. I don't know what he did as a pastor of Ebenezer, but his political career I'm not impressed with at all. I have seen way more people in community go way harder than he ever has. And how do you look at all of the homelessness, all of the poverty, all of the illness that is in the downtown corridor, and you're the freaking pastor of Ebenezer and you never speak to that shit? How? And how does community not hold you damn responsible? Because you're not just a politician. You're a freaking pastor.
Well, hold on.
I don't think he should be able to hold both.
I'll tell you how the community doesn't hold him responsible, though. I'll tell you how they do it. You know, a lot has been said, and I'm just telling you what it is. A lot has been said about Christianity, right? Oh, and I'm not, listen, everybody can be whatever they want to be. I'm not telling you what to be. But the problem is, if you want to hold a Christian preacher accountable, you're going to have to know a little bit about your Bible. And you're going to have to know a little bit about what the Bible says about the poor. The Bible mentions poverty a lot, and how your responsibility is to take care of the poor and the widowed and all that stuff. And how you're not supposed to put wealthy people above poor people, and that's a sin. It goes into all that stuff a lot. But if you don't know that, you can't look at this pastor and say, let me list down all the verses you're doing wrong. Let me just sit down a second. Sit down right there. Just sit yourself. I got a lot to say to you. So we don't even know. We know intrinsically, like, it's something wrong there, but we can't even say it because we don't even know enough about the doctrine that he's supposed to be held to use it to hold him accountable as a pastor, not a politician. Now, I agree with you about what you said too about, like, he said politics is like, no, them things ain't really supposed to be intertwined in that same way. Like I said, politics is kind of a blood sport. That's now your morality may influence your politics, right? But it's not the same thing. The other problem is, go to what you say, is people will say we won. And I don't think Negroes understand, like, first of all, a lot of the stuff goes into it before you even get to the vote. But even if you vote and the person that you want got in, you got a whole new job now of holding that person accountable. What we do is just be like, well, he won. That's wonderful. I went and I voted and I got him in there and I did my job. Do you see my I voted sticker? Now, I'm the first one to wear I voted sticker. I'll be wearing mine because them stickers got good glue. I can wear it all day. But I'm saying that, like, we don't understand, like, this is not the end of your job. This is the beginning of a new job. We don't understand that, and we don't be really wanting that kind of work. But if you want to get yourself free some kind of way, you're going to have that kind of work. And those are things that we just don't understand. But go ahead, fam. I'm sorry.
And, and so I worked in local government for over 10 years. I actually left local government because it was so frustrating trying to educate regular working black folks to vote and, like, do things. Like, you're paying way more in your taxes and you making less and you're getting the least benefit. And that became very frustrating because people just weren't getting it. Like, some of this stuff, quite frankly, if people had, like, just listened, because it wasn't just me, it was an office full of us, like, really pushing hard to teach our people how, like, on a very local level, your tax dollars, politics, all this stuff works. And local politics has never been sexy. I don't know if it will ever be sexy, but I'm so frustrated because it's just like, this whole vote, and people think that's it. No, voting is the small piece. It's a very easy piece. The other part is getting your ass out on the ground, listening to these commissioners' meetings, all of these meetings, looking at the budget, listening to when they giving out these budgets, and then when they have quote-unquote surpluses, hold on, where you get the surplus from? You know, questioning where is this money being spent, all of these things. And I know there are no easy answers, but the people who, I have seen a lot of white folks who have specifically moved back to the Atlanta area, and a lot of their politics, black folks don't even know, they doing closed door deals. They getting together behind closed doors in meetings that, unless you in their crowd, you ain't even getting in. And some of these decisions are made in these meetings, and even trying to get people to see that, like, no, like, it's way bigger than just voting. Voting is a very small piece. You gotta, if you want the change you claim you want, you have to do the work. And you don't have to do it all on your own. Like you said, it could be a shared or community responsibility. But the whole, oh, I voted, no, that's not it. You don't get to tap out, tap backing in.
No, not if you want stuff. Now, if you okay with your kid failing and you failing, okay, you can tap out and you can just be, you know, arms for the ball, whatever. But if you really want an American life, you gotta be tapped in like a, you know how pro athletes are always in their own, they in the zone or whatever. You better be tapped in like that or you get your head ripped off. That's America. So I appreciate it, fam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Yeah, you gotta be tapped in. You be tapped out. Try to play something against a professional athlete and be tapped out. You can't even play. But you try to play like that, you're gonna have some struggles. 303. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? 303, you there?
I am. I'm sorry. I'm surprised to be on. Thank you for having me. First, I want to tell you how important, and I know you know how important you are, but I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Like, for just, like, leading the charge on something that, like, your story will be told with history. With people's history because of what you've done. And I appreciate you for that. But I want to say something about labor and why you never speak to that. Why are we never talking about that part? We need black labor. We can't have any kind of serious conversation going forward without that. Because
go a little bit further. Go a little bit further, fam. Go a little bit further about what you mean in terms of black labor.
In terms of the way we were boxed out of the construction industry after for so long being the Latino of our
we talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about construction sites. We've talked about discrimination against ADOS who work in labor. We have talked about that.
Well, but it's not the discrimination part as much as it is. And I'll just be honest with you. We were lulled to sleep at a time when we needed it more than most. And we kind of discounted the impact that the college infusion into our community, and I mean the education part of it.
Well, let me stop you. I don't disagree with you. What happened was, though, let me just say this. This is my view. What happened is that our people didn't protect labor, right? In the sense of, I am a college graduate I have 2 factory worker parents. You can't do that no more. So like what happens is, but they were supposed to protect that and pass it down to, like, we got to protect these jobs. These jobs are for us. These jobs allowed us to have homes and cars and stuff and stability. Because I had 2 factory worker parents, but I had a stable life. But that life was because of labor. It wasn't because nobody went to college. I don't have a parent that finished high school. My mama didn't finish elementary school. So it was all labor because she was working in a sharecropper farm, right? She had to go work in the field. So I agree with you, but I think I agree that there's blame to go around, and there's still blame to go around now. But a lot of that blame goes on silent gen and boomers who just kind of, they work jobs and they just felt like that life was gonna be that way. Like, I work a job, I go to work, my parents didn't do enough politics. I'll tell you that. I'll be honest. They didn't do enough. They voted and stuff, but they didn't do enough to protect the kind of jobs that gave them the life that they had.
Yeah, but you want to know something, Yvette?
Go ahead.
I think we got so caught up, and they got so caught up in providing and being so proud that they could provide that they're almost. And I'm telling you because I'm 56 and I grew up in that generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I always tell people in my trade, I am a union cement mason, and I was the last generation that actually had an apprenticeship, where I really had tradesmen above me that kind of taught me the trade kind of thing. And so I know, and I was there during this transition, like to the place that we are today, and I know full well that there are millions of our young people that would absolutely be perfectly suited to be in labor right now, but we haven't gotten to it. Like, we don't want to make that cool. And it used to be cool.
But hold on. I agree. Hold on. This is another point. I'm gonna let you finish because I'm not gonna. But I agree with you. But your parents told us. Let me tell you, all the laborers who had kids told their kids, "I don't want you to do what I do." They said, "Go to college." So they've made it to where, like, you don't want to listen. Somebody was telling me about. I forget what kind of pole you climb. But it's almost a 6-figure job, but it's a labor job, and it's just like they were saying that like ADOS kids they're not into the job, because you don't go to work in a suit, you go to you have these blues on or whatever the case may be, and the vest that shows and the bright orange vest or whatever. It was still then. Yeah, I agree with you that our parents got into providing, but with providing goes protection. Like, you have to provide and then protect the thing that allows you to provide so you can pass down your career. One thing we've always talked about is how careers are passed down. You got to at least be able to pass down your factory job or your other labor job or your electrician job or whatever it is you do. But go ahead, fam. I'm going to let you go. I just had that thought.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And the deficit absolutely came because they never passed much. I was a second generation. So I'm reluctant to say we, because I know what that's like. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it until I was older, till I was an adult, what it was that my dad was trying to give me, right? But I embraced it, and I ran with it.
Makes sense. You passed down a career.
I realized the longer I stay in the trade, how rare that is.
He did what he was supposed to do.
I'm saying, I didn't hear you.
Now, I think your daddy did what he was supposed to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, real talk. But then again, I'm just saying, even with that aside, I think we really have underestimated. Like, we were absolutely the labor force physically for 400 years. So how did we get tricked out of using, like, you know what a resource we have sitting in these hoods right now? All these kids ain't going to college, and we know that. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, who's better suited to get out there and physically use their mind with their body to make a living than our kids? We see it happening in athletics every day. We see it happening everywhere we show up physically and mentally. I mean, it is what it is. All I'm saying is we got to recapture that labor force. We're being boxed out of careers every day.
Well, I think you have another problem too. I think you have, you know, Frederick Douglass talked about this. He wasn't at Booker T. Washington talked about this, right? Like how we should be the primary labor force and not any other group that comes in from outside, and that like America should accept us like that. I think part of the problem though, fam, too, is materialism. I think something America did, and they did it a little bit. Some people gonna hate me about this, through hip hop. I said this in the sense of like creating this appetite for stuff that you don't really what you need that Gucci thing for or whatever. And it's like I don't want to go work like that. I want to be a boss. I want to whatever. No, what you want to be doing is stable, take care of your family. There's nothing shameful about working with your hands. Like, that's some of the most meditative stuff you can do, and it's a good living. You want to be stable.
Yes, it is. Man, Yvette, I'm saying I grew up in and out of the system. And I found construction as a bounce back from music. And I realized early on that it was something that I could learn how to build. I could learn infrastructure, that kind of thing, right? But I never made less than $50,000 in 20 years that I've been doing it. And the bottom line was, had I had any kind of infrastructure around me to help me take advantage of those resources, I'd have built a training facility from here to California by now. But at the end of the day, it still leaves me with the kind of perspective where I see a need, and there's absolutely right now labor is suffering because we don't have all hands on deck. And to be honest with you, these Latino brothers and sisters just done scared everybody away from construction because they had to be so hungry coming in, they couldn't be denied.
Well,
But
the
now
other,
even they're at a place.
well, the other problem is if you have desperate people come into a labor force, they drive down the wages, right? So you have something that was you used to be able to get paid enough in some place, in some areas. I don't know the whole, but then if you have another group that comes in and infiltrates and they'll take whatever because they're desperate and they come from a desperate place, then you get less than American wages, right? And they can treat them worse, which is awful for them, right? It ain't great, but I'm just saying it's just like it's so. This should have been managed though. What I'm trying to say is this is something that from our elite, from our political elite, that should have been managed and advocated for. And if it hadn't happened, our people, you know, your daddy did the right thing. I don't know how many people did that though. And some people try to do the right thing with their kids, and their kids said, "No, I want to go do X, Y, and Z. I don't want to do that." And it was a good living, and they didn't want to do it because everybody else said, "I'm going to college." Right, and I'm going, and there's nothing wrong with going to college if that's your thing. But there's nothing wrong with going to do whatever you're gonna go do either. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But we developed this sort of status mind that like, oh, I'm going to school, I'm going to college. I went to college because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't go because I felt the way and I felt like I was better than nobody, nothing like that. But we developed that. Now I can't work a sledgehammer, nothing like that. I remember I was trying to redo something, and somebody said, "Well, I don't know if you can do it." I said, "What you mean?" This was a person who worked in construction. He said, "Yvette, your body ain't gonna take it." Whatever. So, but I do understand as somebody who as somebody who has a mother though who worked in a factory for her entire life, I do understand that the value of being able to provide. My father worked in a factory as well. I do understand the value of being able to provide, but I think something else that happens with those people too, and let me just add this to the mix of what you're saying. Both my parents had surgeries associated, injuries that resulted in surgeries from their job. And I think what happened too, I think my father had a slip disc. My mama tore the rotator cuff in her shoulder like she was a pitcher because she did the same movement all day, and she had a arm surgery. So I think what happens to them, like in the scheme of things, that might not be a huge deal, right? Like, you know, stuff happens. But the way they view it is like, I don't want my kid to have that surgery. I don't want my kid to have that surgery. And it's like, maybe maybe not me specifically, but other ADOS. Maybe you work a different kind of labor job. Maybe it's not that kind of job. Maybe you advocate for OSHA to come in, like, and make sure the standards are up to par, so that you do other jobs, and you know, and not the same job with the same motion every day.
Well, I'll say this, then again, we can't advocate for nothing but ourselves staying on the job, Yvette. And I'm saying that as somebody who's been operating at the top of my field probably for the better part of 15 years. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I'm just saying, like, in terms of like the people that do what I do, I've seen some really beautiful projects finished. Mm-hmm. And I know, there's a certain amount of alienation that just comes with us being there unprotected. And
That's true.
We really don't. We keep forgetting we operate with no protections. Every other group that we work with has an embassy, has all kind of like layers of corporate this and that, looking out for their interests so that they can stay on the job, whether it's a developer that brought his crew with him, whether it's like whatever. And you know, we don't talk about NAFTA and TPP and how that absolutely was almost a nail in the coffin for us.
That's true. And we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it when it was happening. We didn't talk about it when it was happening, fam. We didn't talk about the implications when NAFTA was happening. I didn't hear. I was alive during that period. It's into politics at that young age, and I didn't hear that conversation about us. I heard white people having it. I didn't hear us having it at all. Go ahead, fam.
And it just, I'm telling you, I was a living witness. I came into union work in 2000. So run that timeline. And I'm saying for that 20 years to now, our industries have changed. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of different reasons. It's not just, there's a bunch of different reasons. All I'm saying is we're the only ones, and I'm telling you, somebody who could work when I wanted to. Not being arrogant. I'm just saying I was well-rounded. I'm well-rounded in my craft. Mm-hmm. So even as an apprentice, I did a lot of different stuff. So when guys really didn't have work and it was slow, I could always work.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I saw a period when literally the companies that would hire me on a humbug were like blatantly not like telling me I have no work. I would be working on projects and groups of guys would come on. and I'd get laid off, and they would let me put on my layoff slip just to make that because they knew, well, as long as he's getting unemployment, he ain't gonna make no big beef about it, right?
Wow.
So they would let me put on my EDD form when I turned in my unemployment. They would let me put I got laid off because of they were a reduction in labor, and then they hired 12 guys the day after that.
Wow. So wow.
You understand? This is for 20
and they're like, as long as he gets unemployment, he don't care.
About, like how much money we have to leave on the table just to have careers.
That's true.
Like, and it's crazy again that we. I'm just saying that I'll land my plane. I don't want to take up your whole show. I just appreciate. Thank you for just picking up my call, my sister. Just
no, you're right.
Please do talk about that.
No, you're right. You're right.
I don't.
Listen, I come from like I said, I have parents who work labor jobs. You're right. You're right. We got boxed out, and they just had they did and it was just like, I mean, now you need to speak Spanish. A lot of these sites. We got boxed out of labor, and nobody really wants to. I heard when I tried to tell somebody that one time, they were like, well, we should learn Spanish and do different jobs. My kid's going to get his PhD, and I'm like, dude, you don't get it.
You know how many times I've heard that?
Yep.
You know how many blatantly people have. You know how many guys have told me straight up, like, well, you ain't gonna be doing this for much longer. What are you gonna do next? And I'm like, I'm gonna do this till I retire. And guys would just look at me like you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get it. You've been replaced. You don't get it. You're one of the lingering last ones.
You're not gonna retire doing this.
Yep, you gone. You
but
gonna
anyway,
know you out.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, because I want to enjoy the rest of your show.
I appreciate you, fam.
Just bless you. Thank you. And I'll call you back. I'll call you again.
Okay, appreciate you, fam. No, I know I love the labor conversation and I appreciate the input, especially from somebody who does that day in, day out. And I don't know why we didn't protect our jobs. Like I think I have some of the reasons I've shared, but we didn't protect our people in labor, and I still don't think a lot of us, I still think there's a lot of talented tent stuff going on. Where the people who have degrees are like, what are they doing that for? That's for the Mexicans. Child, you was 2 seconds away from being right there. And that's what countries do. You are a bottom caste group asking why somebody works a labor job. You don't understand your position, and I don't even want to talk. But great conversation, fam. I appreciate it. I am going now to 313. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette.
Hey.
This is Sharon.
Hey, Sharon.
I love your show. I've been watching you for a long time. I just want to piggyback on what you and that young man was just talking about.
Okay.
I'm a boomer. I'm not an early boomer. I'm one of the late ones. But anyway, the old saying, when you know better, you do better.
Yep.
Well, we can't ever do better because they keep changing the game on us. First it was labor. Our parents told us to get the education.
Okay.
We got the education, but we didn't get the technology skills that we need to keep up with this new thing with the computers and stuff. So a lot of us are left behind because of that. Every time we try to catch up and we think we're catching up, something else is putting away. So I don't know what it's going to take for us as a people to get ahead, besides reparation, of course, because the rabbit hole does go wide and it goes deep. And when we think we done figured out the game, it's changed again. So as long as they keep moving the goalposts, I don't see us getting where we need to be unless we get what we deserve, which is reparations, because blood, sweat, and tears of the Adolf has been done, and we need to be repaired. That is a must.
Well, I agree with you. I think what happens is, it's just kind of like I was telling somebody about college. They said go to college, and now people are saying, I brought it up on the show, now people are saying, well, college, now companies are saying you don't have to go to college. People told us to go to college. And then even when we went to college, people said, well, you didn't go to college for STEM. See, the problem is you went to college for something other than STEM. See, you were stupid. And so it was the kind of degree we got. So every time we try to do something, it's kind of like, you ever play Uno with somebody? Maybe you didn't, ma'am. But those of you who
Oh, yes, I did.
You did?
Reverse and all that, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
You ever have somebody change the Uno rules? You ever have somebody change the Uno rules up on you? So you say you can draw 4. When you do the draw 4, you can't put down a card though. You draw. You just draw the 4. You keep on going. And then
you just get more responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when it come around to them, well, no, that ain't the real rule. You can draw 4 and then put down one of your 4. Wait a minute. You just changed the rules to get rid of cards. You changed your rules to get rid of cards. And I think you got some cards hid under your foot. But anyway, the point is. The point is, like, you can't play a game fair when somebody just decides at any given time they change the rules and you don't say, hold on. No, you can't change the rules like that. Like, we have to have protections, too, in these places where people don't want to hire us. The anti-discrimination law has been trashed. So not only did you don't go in and really enforce the laws that are on the books, but then you change the rules. It makes the game really difficult.
But it look like everything's been changed, even with the civil rights laws. It seems like everybody else has benefiting but us. So I don't know what the solution is other than getting reparations, if that'll ever happen, so we can rebuild, or build, I should say. Well, I can't say rebuild because a lot of places have been destroyed where blacks have built. And because of the jealousy and envy and all that, they burnt them down after they looted it. So we need to be able to go somewhere where we don't have to worry about that anymore. And I know, anyway, something needs to be done because it's not good right now. Because things keep changing. And as soon as we think we figure out the game change again. And that's what I have a problem.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And they do it every time. They do it every time.
Yes, they do. So anyway, I do appreciate your content. I appreciate what you give us. I'm telling you, you're just awesome. Keep being awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate
maybe before I leave here, because like I said, I'm a boomer, but I make it in. Maybe I'll see a positive change. I'm tired of the negative change. I've seen enough of that. It is time for something to have some teeth in it with some substance, so we can say, okay, I feel we're getting, some traction here. We're making it. You know what I mean?
You doggone right.
Hopefully I can see that before I leave here.
You doggone right. Some good trajectory.
Stay doing what you're doing. I love your show.
Love you.
Take
love
care.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. I love you back. Hey, listen. That was a great call. We had some great calls tonight. And yeah, Marlon, that reverse Uno card is the devil. I think that should be thrown out of every deck. Throw that junk away. Ooh. Oh my God. I think it was at the Angela Project or something. We played Uno one night. We were supposed to play Uno at the last conference. We didn't get around to it. That was my fault. I was tired. But yeah. I think it was the Angela Project. But yeah, that reverse Uno. Was that thing in the deck when I was a kid? I don't remember that. That thing just came out of nowhere. Well, go around the other way. Child, I don't know. I can't do it. It's too much. With the reverse Uno. Whew. 469. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's going on?
Hey, good evening, Yvette. This is Freeman in Dallas.
Hey, what's going on with you?
Hey, not much. Hey, it looks like you got a late show, so I will try not to hold you up, but I just wanted to throw a couple of tidbits to you and to the audience. The family listening, to kind of piggyback on what the brother was talking about with the trades. There's an interesting book that you should take a look at. Maybe you should put it in one of the book clubs. What it's called, Mexican Cliques in Construction by Ricardo Charles. Not sure if you've ever heard of it, but it's from like 2011.
Y'all got some good books.
I work in real estate. Yeah, I work in real estate. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I'm a brother. I'm bilingual. So I get the inside scoop a little bit because they think I'm Honduran or Dominican or Colombian or something. I play that up. And I've learned a lot over the years because I was originally in project management and as a project superintendent as well when I started off, and I worked my way into project management and mid-market general contractor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And I can tell you, they are organized. We are not. When you talk about that book is an eye-opener. You should take a look at it. It's called Mexican Cliques in Construction, Ricardo Charles. It's directly related to the situation I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but in Chicago, there are these, and this is everywhere, but in Chicago, there were these temp services that are set up by Mexican Americans, usually the second generation Mexican Americans, dreamers, because now these folks are becoming adults now. I work with them. I got a lot of colleagues and, who were dreamers, who got the DACA. Now they're stepping up into leadership positions in terms of starting companies, being able to get in somewhere inside the ecosystem and start some type of company that is able to help further their agenda. And what you see is that there's this situation that happened up in Chicago with the discrimination against the brothers trying to do the temp work, and they were basically shunning, the brothers from the top jobs or jobs at all. It goes on, it's going on, it's real. It needs to be addressed by whatever black folks is in leadership. I really don't pay attention to it. I really get my political info from folks like you and Tone, and just a little bit of reading that I do. But on the everyday life experience, I can tell you there is a concentrated effort to keep young black boys, especially, out of these low barrier to entry type of jobs. And I mean, this is it's a machine that you have to read the book, Yvette. There's a machine.
Oh, I'm gonna read it. That we don't even know exists. You still there, fam?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just saying. I thought you were about to say something.
No, I said I was just telling you. I was just telling you I wrote it down. I'm gonna once I get off this call, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, it's Mexican Clicks in Construction, and we have to understand. And I mean, I've called in before, and I've talked about. I consider myself a poor man's expert in the anti-blackness from the Latino community and Latin America in general and at large. It's a longer history. I spoke with you about this before. There's a much longer history. I just sent you something on Facebook today. There's a Facebook page called Chicano Post. You got to pay attention to it, Yvette. It is nuts. When it comes to the reparations discussion, you got to go see it. It's in your inbox. You got to go see the comments. I wait every day to see something from a Chicano or Mexican American or whatever, or some type of Latino manifesting this political upward mobility manifested on social media with their post. You got to see it's rife with anti-blackness, and some of them don't even realize it until you sit and talk with them. You got to check it out.
Chicano Post. Okay.
Chicano Post. That's a big one. I just sent that message, and they're talking about the California reparations bill, and it's not. We know that there's, it's not so much about the substance of that bill and the reparations talk that they have going on out there in California, but it is the pushback from so-called allies. It's ridiculous. So I'll leave it. Read that book, Mexican Clicks by Ricardo Charles. Mexican Clicks in Construction, and it's about a little under 300 pages. It's a good read.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out, fam. Got to. I appreciate it. Thank you. I love a good book recommendation. I sure appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Take care.
You do the same, fam. You do the same. Ooh-wee. I love myself a good book recommendation. 912. What's going on? What's your name? Where you calling from? What's going on?
Hey, Yvette, this is Bernard.
Hey, Bernard, what's going on?
Yvette, you need to have a talk with your people in DeKalb County.
What they did? What they did out there?
I don't know what y'all were doing yesterday with the war knock. All I know is I was looking on the New York Times, and I was like, oh, they done found extra votes in DeKalb County for this man. As if he needed them.
Don't you start.
I was like, oh, my goodness. I was like, well, first of all, it still ended up way closer than what it should have been, considering what Herschel Walker is. But I was like, dog, y'all doing a little bit too much today. I was like, I think y'all need to grow up. But I've been enjoying the conversation tonight because I love the flow of the calls, because first the lady calls from Atlanta to talk about Warnock, and then somebody comes in after her and talks about labor. Now, what didn't Warnock recently vote for? And then, of course, he's going to say, oh, I was just too busy with my runoff. But it's kind of funny that we voted for a black person, that Georgia voted for a black person who was too scared to even vote on a bill to give sick leave to some rail workers. Like, I'm just saying, he totally abstained from it.
Now, hold on. That's just workers in general. Like, he didn't want to do something for just, not black workers, not ADOS workers, workers in general.
Workers in general. Yep. So I'm kind of like, so we really just voted on a person that's either lukewarm or perhaps anti-labor or who doesn't understand labor? I don't know. I don't know what Georgia was doing last night. I was thinking that maybe he should have won by less than a point again, if at all. That's just my opinion on that. But speaking of Georgia, my cynical mind is going someplace that's interesting with this this Providence, Rhode Island so-called reparations plan. Now, I'm worried that the lack of interest in reparations, especially, how you highlight those 58 people went to the community meetings, allows the movement to easily be manipulated and co-op. Because I'm thinking about this. What if somebody like some centrist Democrats or something decides we do not want to repeat a 2020 where we get caught flat-footed on this reparations thing during our primaries? So in preparation for 2024, what we're going to do is we're going to take people like this mayor from Rhode Island and maybe look for some others and then trot them out there to mainstream media so that they can market this low-hanging fruit as reparations. Because what I was thinking about during some of the calls is the fact that, like, what was described in that plan, while it kind of sounds good, it also kind of sounds like Providence, Rhode Island just being a city. Like, as in, those are kind of things that a country or a city just should do if it can afford to do it. So I'm thinking, like, wait a minute. Like, I'm looking at how, for example, Atlanta has several programs where they're trying to do job training or they're trying to prevent the effects of, like, what is it, what's it called, gentrification via the Beltline through programs that, prevent people's property taxes from rising over a certain period of time. What if they go down there and they go down there to, like Andre Dickens, and then they tell him, like, why don't you remarket put these programs in one plan, and you can market them as a reparations plan, and we're going to put you on CNN or MSNBC to talk about it. That way you can get these, like, low-hanging fruit plans into the American lexicon as a reparations plan, and you'll have, like, centrist Democrats on the debate stage in 2024 saying that this is their idea for reparations or some type of equity and inclusion plan. I'm kind of concerned that type of manipulation can occur as these, like, little local efforts start rolling out and being marketed as reparations. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I agree with you. They could do that. So we would go from, it's funny, people, we had Marianne Williamson at the first conference, and it's funny the criticism that she got in terms of the number being in the billions. People were like, that's too low. And it is, it was too low, right? And we had discussion with her about it. Antonio talked to her about it on the stage, and it was too low. Now you have people going around, they're not even they're nowhere near billions. They are at 10 million, right? Or lower, right? That's where they are, and nobody's saying anything. Everybody has something to say when Marianne was in the billions and not the trillions. And y'all not gonna say nothing when they talking about $10 million? And we say, well, it's not federal. Yeah, that's the point. Only the federal government can do that. Yeah, I agree with you, but I think it's a danger.
I think it's a very serious danger because, again, they can just get anybody, any old mayor from even, like, southern cities and stuff like that to say, like, oh, these things that we've already been doing for 5 years, this is reparations, this is a model, this is a national model for reparations, and it don't even cost that much.
Yeah, and I did it.
Democrat would be like, oh, that's easy.
Yeah, and I did it first. So please elect me because I did it. I was the mama of reparations or whatever they're gonna call themselves, the mama, the dad, or whatever, and cause a little bitty plan. So I definitely think it's a danger, and I think that's what some of these people want to run on, is that they did something that was like they provided the framework, and they really didn't do nothing of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's just my thoughts for tonight. I was going to be relatively quick, but that was rolling through my mind. I was like, oh, shoot, they're going to take this thing, and maybe the National Democrats might start marketing these and say, oh, this seems like a serious reparations plan. Like,
I can see it.
Don't need that to happen.
Well, I think that's part of the reason some of them did that, because they want to either do something political in the future, or they want to have a business model. So for Edmondson, for Robin Ruth Simmons, she has a consulting firm now. So a failed first became a business model. If it's not a business model, it's something else, because you're doing it because of a personal ambition a lot of times. So I think that's a danger, but we'll see. Thank you, fam. Much appreciated.
Good night, Yvette.
All right. You have a good one. I think that's gonna be we at 154. So that's my last call for tonight. If I didn't get to you, sorry. I will get to you next time, hopefully. But you know, we're almost at the 2 hour mark, fam. So that is going to be the end of our show. I want everybody some good calls tonight. I really did appreciate that. We really had some good calls tonight. Really did. I appreciate that. And the labor conversation. I'm gonna get this book. That labor conversation too. It really is one that so many things just kind of went wrong. Like everybody been just shuffling us around to here, fro, go there, do this, don't do that, and it's just been wrong. It ain't been undergirded by any information. Like why can't I go do? Why can't I have a labor job? Why aren't y'all protecting labor jobs? And I think part of that had to do with the fact that like they didn't think that like we were gonna need labor jobs, like we were really gonna be elevated, and we didn't have to work hard and sweat and stuff. So it's quite the conundrum. But anyway, fam, please keep it easy breezy. Hit that like button before you leave. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Do all of that good stuff. Finish your libation. For those of you who are just on YouTube, I will see you all next Wednesday. If you're on Patreon, I will see you tomorrow. So today's Wednesday, right? Okay. Anyway, fam, keep it easy breezy. Take care of yourself. Don't bother nobody, and don't let nobody bother you. Keep your blood pressure down. See you next time, fam.